fear turns to anger, and he swallows Cat back into his own skin. And the two engage into another food war, sabotaging each other's teeth. Cat Dog is a strange concept for a show that just barely scratches the surface of all the weird and disturbing shit the two of them are capable of. This is one of those things that we wish stayed under the surface.
Despite being a show about ghosts, Danny Phantom rarely ever gets scary. It has its moments here and there, but the ghosts are more often than not played for laughs. Surprisingly enough, the most disturbing moment in the entire series comes from Danny himself. Well, sort of. In the second TV movie, The Ultimate Enemy, shit gets real. 10 years into the future, the Earth is in ruins. The most dangerous ghost of all time is making the lives of the survivors a living hell, and that ghost is the adult Danny Phantom. The episode has a lot of time travel and convoluted explanations for how ghost forms work. Eventually, present-day Danny takes it upon himself to defeat his future self, and learn how exactly he became like that in the first place. It turns out that right after Danny travels into the future, an event takes place that turns him into this demon. This event being an explosion at the Nasty Burger that kills his entire family, as well as Sam Tucker and Mr. Lancer. Danny was then forced to move in with the only person who has a chance of understanding him, his family friend and arch-nemesis, Vlad Masters, who is also half-ghost. Despite their history, Vlad treated Danny with great sympathy. Unfortunately, it didn't do much good for Danny. He asked Vlad to remove his human half, so he wouldn't have to suffer human emotions anymore. He does so, reluctantly, but now without his human conscience, Danny's ghost form does the unthinkable. He rips Vlad's ghost form out of him and fuses with it. The malice and evil inside of Vlad's ghost form is too much to handle, and it turns Danny into an irredeemable monster.
Speed Buggy! Go, Speed Buggy, go!
And now, ladies and gentlemen, Speed Buggy will do the impossible. He will perform amazing.
I mean, you can tell how messed up this episode is going to be right from the title card, showing a beaten and bruised up Danny, barely holding up against his shadowy future self. And everything about future Danny is just disturbing, from his transformation scene to his complete lack of empathy. The fact that the main characters we come to know are just outright killed is another shocking detail that you don't usually see in Nickelodeon shows, or kids shows in general. And this episode was not a what-if plot either. It was very real, and it was close to being the actual reality of the show. After his defeat, future Danny is never seen again. The ending set up his return, but thankfully he never escaped from his eternal prison cell.
In addition to Ren and Stimpy, Rocko's Modern Life is one of Nickelodeon's most surreal and zany shows of the 90s. Jokes and visual humor had little to no consequence, leading to some absolutely fantastic slapstick. But we're not here to talk about funny stuff. Sometimes that surrealness that works in favor of the show's humor can also go a bit too far. In the 10th episode of the series Cabin Fever, the Big Heads go on vacation to a mountain cabin. However, when they get there, they find that Rocko and Heifer rented the exact same cabin, leading them to have to spend the weekend together. As usual, Mrs. Big Head is just fine with this, but Mr. Big Head is 100% not. Eventually, an avalanche occurs, trapping them inside the cabin. Mr. Big Head attempts to dig through the snow later that night, but ends up almost freezing to death. Half awake, Mr. Big Head looks up and sees the three standing around him, morphing into demons. A short, strange acid trip occurs with Big Head turned into a flower and then screaming his eyes out, literally. While this moment is short, it definitely caught many children off guard with its sudden, disturbing nature.
Schauen Sie sich mal um, da haben Sie Modul und Designs und so weiter und so fort. Da habe ich zwar schon mal gesagt, die Spezialisten, die wir brauchen, da verstehen Sie.
In the 15th episode of Batman Beyond, we are introduced to an original villain named Earthmover, a man made entirely out of dirt. Throughout the episode, Terry's friend Jackie Wallace feels as if she's being constantly watched. Well, it turns out that she is being watched by the titular Earth Mover, or at least his dirt henchman. Jackie is sure that the villain is one of her adopted father's enemies. After the attack by the Dirtmen, Jackie's adopted father, Bill, reveals that her real father, Tony, is the villain, and that it's his fault that he became that way. 10 years prior, Bill and Tony started up a company and had to dispose of toxic waste. However, they could not afford to do it properly, so Bill dumped it into a sealed mine shaft. Tony was reluctant of this, worried that there would be terrible repercussions, but Bill offered him a partnership to gain his confidence. A cave-in occurs, trapping Tony underground with the toxic waste. Thinking that he's dead, Bill adopts Jackie to make up for his mistake. However, the toxic waste caused Tony to fuse with the Earth itself, creating Earth Mover. In present day, Bill and Jackie become trapped underground, where they find out what Tony truly looks like.
It's back. I don't see anything.
Here, let me have a look.
Oh, do you see anything, Stripes?
No, you're fogging it up with your sniveling. Oh,
Did you see something awful?
yes, your snout, really close up.
I've watched Edna. She just stares into it, kind of like she's in a trance. And she waves her hands over it.
Do you think I should try?
It wouldn't hurt.
Do you see anything, dear? No.
It can't tell you anything if you don't ask it a question.
Of course.
He attempts to kill Bill and take Jackie back, but Batman shows up and saves the day.